Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our second informational session for hiring managers, and wanted to just quickly jump in and go over sort of what's going to happen today, what we're going to go through. So first thing is I want to introduce who's here with me. I'm Bill Myers, Talent Acquisition Consultant, Department of Human Resources, the state of Vermont. I'm part of the project team that's implementing SuccessFactors. With me is Gail Rushford, Recruitment Services Supervisor, and Gail will take you through, and she's also obviously part of the team, doing a lot of the implementation configuration work, and she's going to be taking you through the demo portion of the program today. We have Doug Pine, as you all know, I'm sure you all know Doug, and he's kind of, he's our project sponsor for the project, and obviously very knowledgeable on the system and helping us test it and make sure it runs the way it's supposed to. And then Derek Moffett, our talent acquisition, one of our talent acquisition specialists. He's here to help out answering questions if there are any questions. So he's very knowledgeable. He's been part of this whole implementation process too, and was very knowledgeable about the system. So if you do have questions, please use the question section of your GoToWebinar toolbox. It's usually pinned to the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And some of them, Derek will answer via the question box in real time. Others that are maybe require a more complex response we'll probably just address at the right time when we have a break where it's appropriate to jump in and respond to it. So please do feel free to ask questions, because there'll probably be a lot of things here new for you, and you probably will have some questions that come up. Anytime during the session, like I said, ask questions. Wanted to kind of just talk about, this is just a high-level overview and demonstration. This is not a training session. We will go over some of the steps people with hiring manager role will be able to take to create a requisition and review the advance or reject candidates, moving candidates through the workflow. But we will be offering actual live webinar training starting in September, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the webinar. And there will be a certain select group of folks that will be doing some in-person training too, people who are more of the who do quite a bit of recruitment, hiring managers who do quite a bit of recruitment and are going to have a lot of recruitment once we launch. We are going to offer some in-person training too, but there will be 3 training sessions via webinar that we will conduct. So there's plenty of opportunity to get familiar with the system before we go live. We're going to talk about the business process changes that came about as a result of just kind of reviewing our current processes and how it would relate to the current SuccessFactors system coming on board, and kind of why we did that. We're going to talk about why we selected SuccessFactors Recruiting. And then finally, just want to let you know that this session is going to be recorded. So if there's anything you missed or anything you wanted to review, we will have a recording available to go back to. And I will send that out to everybody who's obviously who registered, but also everybody who is in designated has that hiring manager role. So everybody will get an opportunity to see the recording. So just talking about the agenda, we had the welcome. And then we're going to go through a couple important clarifications, kind of distinctions between VTHR and SuccessFactors, talk about our goals and objectives of the new system and the business process. Like I said, Gail's going to take us through a brief demonstration of the system. We're going to talk about training plans and then kind of follow up in Q&A. So that's sort of the way the day will go, or the hour will go. So first of all, talking about a couple of important clarifications. I've heard in talking to people, some people have been thinking that this is a replacement. This is a new system. This is not a replacement for VTHR. They're going to work together. It's a standalone system from VTHR, but they are going to work together. There will be data that will be kind of integrated both inbound and outbound, inbound from VTHR to SuccessFactors like job specs, and then data that will come from SuccessFactors back into VTHR, which is going to be like new hire data. So when you hire somebody through SuccessFactors, that data that they provided and we provided through the requisition will be sent back into VTHR for proper, time and labor management and for payroll, things like that. So they will work together. New system, why we wanted a new system. We like the idea that it's a cloud-based system, so there's no servers or hardware that we have to manage or maintain here on premises. It's a secure system. It's monitored 24/7, 365 at a site in the United States. So the data security and data integrity is very, very high. Upgrades, since it's a cloud-based system, upgrades are automatically pushed to us. Some things we would decide to use, some things we won't use, but we don't ever have to worry about going forth with an upgrade. It is mobile friendly, so you can apply, you can search for jobs, you can apply for jobs, and managers can take action on candidates either with a mobile app or just through a regular browser on a mobile device or a tablet. It also has excellent reporting and analytical tools to help you understand sort of where your time to hire goals are, understanding sort of where candidate statuses are, things like that. So a couple other things just to talk about the differences. It will require a separate sign-on from VTHR. You will need to put in your user ID and password. Your user ID will be your employee ID, so it will be pretty easy to remember that. Employee application data will not be carried over. An employee account will be automatically created for every employee of the state of Vermont once we go live on day one, but the employee is going to have to create an updated profile, which is pretty easy using a resume parser, things like that. Legacy job requisitions will not be carried over from PeopleSoft. HR being mostly the talent acquisition team, recruitment services will work with all hiring managers to make sure they're able to transition any requisitions they have ready to go on day one of launch to the new system. There will be a brief drawn-out period where we aren't going to be posting new jobs in PeopleSoft, but we will get them ready in SuccessFactors, so day one they're able to be ready to launch. And like I said, that Derek and Gail and her team will be working on helping you make that transition as seamless as possible. Another reason why we decided with SuccessFactors is it has a really visually appealing and intuitive user interface. It kind of helps you, guides you along the way, and has a lot of great features and affordances built within the system that allow you to perform tasks on the fly from multiple different types of screens, depending on where you are. It has really modern functionality to make the hiring process more efficient. You'll see a lot more of that when Gail goes through the demonstration, but visually it's going to be much more user-friendly for you in managing your workflow of candidates. So first thing I wanted to do is just take a quick poll, just trying to get an understanding of people's kind of familiarity with the current system, and I'm trying to, so you can see the poll. Okay, good. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, the poll is launched.
It's launched, okay. It's just not showing up here, okay. So the question we asked was how long has it been since you last used VTHR for recruitment? So we'll give a few seconds to let people put in their answers. Okay. So I'm going to close it now and share it out so people can see. You can take a look at it. So about half of you, it looks like about half have used it within the last 3 months, which is a pretty high amount. Up to 9 months, 3 to 9 months, it's been about a fifth of you, and about a fifth who have, it's been a little bit more than a year. So that's just an interesting, cut of the data. But it is good to know that about half of you are fairly active in it.
And for those that aren't, this will all still make sense to you.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to. It's not like a, it's not like a sequel that you have to see the first movie first. You'll be able to jump right into SuccessFactors without having to know PeopleSoft too well. So that's the good news. So, talking about the goals and objectives. Did I miss something here? Okay. Talking about the goals and objectives of the the new system. I got to make sure okay. I just want to make sure everybody's seeing the right thing. Sorry. So we're streamlining business processes here. That doesn't mean that your business process has to change. We're not requiring any department to change their processes. They only need to determine how their own department's going to perform those processes through the system, and we'll explain when we demonstrate the system. We want to make sure that we wanted to make sure when we changed our business process and evaluated new systems that all the steps of the process added value. That they, in one of those things that came up was that the approval process be more efficient for everybody. That when a requisition is originated, it gets through the system quickly to the ultimate goal of getting it out there, public and posted, so that people can apply and you can get somebody hired. So one major difference between today's process and the new one is when a new requisition is created, there's no hard stop in the approval process for approving authorities to go into the system and take an action to approve. So currently, an approving authority would have to go in and actually approve something in the system. We found that's kind of a redundant process, since you've probably already, as a hiring manager, you've probably already gotten that approval prior to even starting a requisition. So it didn't make a lot of sense to us in figuring this all out, that you had to actually make them go back in and approve it again. It's kind of a redundant process. So we're basically going to notify. So when you do originate a requisition in the system, it will notify the approving authority, whoever that is designated as, to say via email, say, hey, certain person just started a requisition for this certain role. Just letting you know, you don't need to take any action. It's going to move forward unless you feel like you need to stop that recruitment. If you do, the approving authority has is perfectly able to go in and let somebody know to stop the recruitment on that. But having said that, if it is and this is talking about going over your own business processes within your department or agency. If it is the kind of the desire of the approving authority to be an approver within the requisition, to actually approve it after you start it, we can add them as an approver within the system, meaning they would become a hard stop. So basically, after you start the requisition, the next step would be going to that approving authority, and they would have to actually go into the system and take action to approve it and keep it going to the next step. So by default, they're not going to have to do that, but it can be set up that way if need be, just by the way you would kick off your requisition. Talking about better support for hiring managers. This is really a low touch for hiring managers to kick off a requisition. It's literally going to be one form page, two screens, but one form page of very basic information. Just start the process, and Gail will show you that as we get into the demo. And then you're done, and it gets to move to the next step in the process to get it going. We really want to improve the lines of communications with hiring managers. We think that better communications lead to better hiring outcomes. So as you might have already experienced, Derek and Denise, the talent acquisition specialists, have been reaching out to a lot of hiring managers when new recruiting is requested, to kind of have that strategy call and sort of talk about what you're looking for, making sure you know what's on the job specification, what's on the job posting is exactly what you're looking for. Talking about how you want to market it, where you want to post it, what type of people you're looking for. So this system is all going to contribute to a better communications process between your talent acquisition folks and you to manage candidates in the system. We don't have to rely anymore on candidate self-reporting and screening. So today's model, as you probably all know, people come answer a few screening questions, and most of them know by now if they answer yes to all of them, they get moved to the next step, which is sent over to you. But that doesn't really add a lot of value to you as a hiring manager, because you're getting a lot of people where there's probably a great many of them who aren't qualified, but they just know, by answering yes, they're going to at least get to that next step. So your talent acquisition team will kind of perform that initial review candidates clearly not qualified and not advance them to you. And we feel that this is going to improve your time management for when you are doing recruiting. But having said that, they're going to err on the side of advancing candidates if there's any question whether they're qualified or not. So they're really going to look for people who clearly do not meet the minimum qualifications, and it's pretty obvious from their application or resume. If they're on the fence at all about it, they are going to send those people forward to you. They may send notes or comments, and that's the beauty of this system. There is notes and comments you can send with each individual candidate to say, hey, I was on the fence with this person, but I saw they had this or this, so I just erred on the side of caution. I sent them over to you. And then lastly, kind of just achieving better outcomes aligned with our state strategic goals. We had some very specific strategic goals that we wanted to meet, and those were around better quality of hires, higher rate of retention of new hires, and then just a great improved candidate experience for the people, whether they're external candidates or internal candidates, having a positive experience, having a positive opinion of our user interface when they go in and look for jobs and search and apply, that it doesn't take them forever, that they can quickly go in and do that. They can see their statuses much quicker, those types of things. So just an overall, just a better experience for them is one of the goals that we were looking to achieve. So now I'm going to turn it over to Gail, and she will start the demonstration. And again, if you do have questions, please don't forget to use that question box on the, in your GoToWebinar toolbox. Derek and I will monitor that for any questions that come up. And like I said, anything that requires a more complex answer, we might hold off a little bit.
Did you turn it over to me?
Yes, I did. I can see your screen.
Oh.
I know. This is.
I wonder if that's why it lags. So, hi everyone. One thing that we noticed the last time we did this is that sometimes I talk faster than the screen refreshes and updates. So I may have to just pause periodically to let the screen catch up to me. And when you see those delays, it's not the system. Don't worry about that. It's really just the sharing through this GoToWebinar technology. So this is our home page for internal candidates. And you can see that I'm going to log in with my employee number and my password. I can't type and talk at the same time. So I'm going to just do another quick little poll while you're waiting on me, and just have you answer the question, do you anticipate recruiting in the next 6 months? Okay. So the answer to that was, most of you, yes, you do, and that's probably why you're here, so that's cool. And rest assured that we'll give you plenty of support as we kind of get into this. So now I am logged in to the system. You can see my view is going to be a little bit different than your views because I'm going to have, more functionality. But you can see that there's it's kind of a really clean look and feel to it, and we have these things called, and so we have either a to-do tile, for if there's something pending your action, or just other tiles. We're going to have some user guides here. I like to put my picture on there. So there's, and then a careers tile. So as Bill was mentioning, every active employee is going to have an account in this SuccessFactors system. So this would be where people would come and look for job opportunities and apply as an employee. I wanted to show you basically the hiring manager perspective. So I could do thing I need to do is I need to proxy as the hiring manager that I'm going to demo as today. So you, of course, won't be able to do this, but I can. Click it like you mean it. So this is Robert Faley's homepage, pending approval and something awaiting approval. You know, he's got other requisitions here. So I can navigate to the requisition list as Robert either by clicking on one of these tiles or by clicking on the home menu and the recruiting option. So this is the, I gotta get rid of this thing because it's in my way. This is Robert's list of requisitions at this time. You can see that one of these is not really doing anything because we haven't posted it yet. And the other one has some candidates on it. But this one is the one that he has recently created and saved. And the thing that I want to demonstrate for you is how he would add an approving authority if that was required as part of his department business process. So he can go here and click on this job opening that he started, requisition that he started. And you can see a few different things here. One thing is that this is a route map. So this shows you where the requisition is in the process as he's created it. So he created the requisition. The next step would be the HR field administrator. Then it would come here to the talent team. And then when we're done with it, it would be completed and we would post it. This shows you information that he's already entered to create the requisition, to submit it. So he had the position number, so he provided that for us. He indicated just, you know, sometimes it's helpful for us to know, like for HR to be able to validate that a position's ready to recruit, it's helpful for us to know, like, who's this replacing? Where is this position? You know, sometimes it's just really helpful to have that information so that we make sure we don't make any errors and recruit for the wrong thing. So he's got the position number, indicated if it was replacement. He could enter the previous incumbent's name here. Is it a supervisory position or not? Where are you? What department is this? The location, how many openings are expected to be filled from this one requisition. If it was going to be more than one, we could list more than one position number up here. What kind of position it is it exempt, interim, limited service, temporary? What kind of schedule, full-time or part-time? A lot of positions, or quite a few positions, get recruited as multi-level, and transportation is a good example of this. So this is a position that he submitted. Maybe the previous incumbent was a journeyman level position, but Robert wasn't sure that he would be able to find a journeyman in his area, so he wants to recruit for both an apprentice and a journeyman. So he put multi-level here to let us know that he wants to do that. And you'll see that on all these fields, there's little question marks too, and those question marks indicate that we have help text for that field. And it just tells us just to tell you what we're looking for there. And then the posting parameters. So in this instance, we have Robert as the hiring manager. He's already entered these fields on another screen, on the first screen. So he's entered these fields. He's the hiring manager. Jen Cleach is the HR administrator, and I'm the talent acquisition person. But he has been told that he needs to add an approving authority. Our default that we're going to train everyone to do is we want you, no matter what, to add the approving authority here in this field. So what this is going to do is kick off an email to that approving authority when we submit the requisition. So when this requisition is sent to the next step, Scott Rogers, who's been entered as the appointing authority, will get an email saying Robert Faley's created this requisition. If Scott doesn't want him to recruit for that, he can walk down the hall or call Scott or call Robert, and say, no, I actually plan to take that position and reassign it to another district. So he can stop the process kind of offline that way. But in my little scenario to show you today, I want to add Scott as an approver. That's going to create what we would call like a hard stop. So I'm just going to search for Scott's name on this screen. You can see that I got a list of one result when I typed in the name in the search area. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say Add Selected. I could add somebody else if I wanted to, or I could just cancel. And they always want you to they want to make sure you mean it. So I'm going to save my changes, and it says, are you sure? Because you can't undo that. And I said I was sure. So now you can see in this route map that I started talking to you about at the beginning that Scott's been added as the next step after Robert and before it gets to Jen Cleach. So Scott now has to go into the system. He'll get a notification, and he now has to go into the system and approve it. If we had just left it here, then all he would get is the email. But because we added him as an approver with this orange button, he'll now have to actually physically approve it. And I'm just going to add a comment, because Robert said he wanted multi-level. And so he needs to tell us what he wants. We won't know otherwise. And then he's just going to send it to the next step. So he just clicks on this little button to send it to the next step. And again, you got to mean it. And if I wanted to, as Robert, I could send, Scott's going to get an email notifying him of this pending approval. So Robert could add a little comment here to go in that email. So he could say, this is the one you promised me. Okay. So then he's going to send it to the next step. We should probably just put template language in there that says, please recruit ASAP, because I know that's what everybody will want, but you'll have to type it in all the way. So that shows you the fields that the hiring manager would enter to create a requisition and how they would add an approver. The other thing that I wanted to show you was just basically how a hiring manager would work with candidates in the system. So I'm in here as Robert Faley, and you can see that he's got two. I'll just show you something. I'm changing my display filters right now. So you can see that this requisition, this one that we just submitted, is currently with Scott. But this other one isn't with anybody because it's been posted and we have candidates for it. There's other display options in here that I could change. These are just the ones I have on here right now. And there's also filters here to change which requisitions I want to look at. If I had a lot of them, I could just come here and I could search for ID if I knew it, or specific role. So he doesn't need to worry about that because he's only got two here right now. So I'm going to show you how to manage a candidate. Oh, I did this the wrong way. I didn't mean to show you that navigation. Sorry. Changed my mind. So you can see, I chose a different navigation than I meant to. There's different ways that you can kind of move around in here, as there are with many systems. So this now is a list of all candidates that that Robert can access. So this is what we call a pipeline. So these statuses are different statuses that candidates will move through as we go through the process. This status, recruitment review, is the one where the recruitment team is going to put people after they apply, but before we release them to you to act upon. So this is kind of like, we didn't want to stop you from seeing people who are in applied status, but we're putting people here while we're reviewing them to validate if they meet the minimum qualifications or not, and also while we're waiting to meet the 10 business days for the posting period. So we're not going to move people into your review bucket, into your review status, until we've hit our application deadline of 10 business days. But they're going to sit here, and you can see them while they're here. So you can see here in this status, and I've been doing some testing, so I have one person in offer already. So maybe I'm going to fill 2 positions from this requisition. But you can see in this status column where they are, as well as you could click on each one of these fields. I'm going to change my display options. I want you to see a couple. So I just got rid of the source field. I wanted you to see that we have here columns for veterans preference and mandatory interview status. So these 3 people that are in recruitment review, recruitment's still working with them. They're not released to the hiring manager yet, but these 3 that are in the hiring manager review status, the hiring manager can review and take action on. So let's say the hiring manager wants to review their resumes. He could just select all their names, as I just did, and click on View Resume. And then we come to this handy little screen or page where you can scroll through the resumes of the candidate. So here's the first one, and I just click on the little arrow to move to the next one. So now I'm looking at a different candidate. I can take action on them here. I can move them to the next status, which would be interview, or I could decline them here, so I could move them to not selected and choose my reason why. And then I would apply updates if I was doing that. I don't want to take action on them right now. I just want to show you that I can do that. So I can just scroll through their resumes this way. If somebody didn't submit a resume, if they only applied, if they just applied manually without a resume, then you wouldn't see that here. You'd have to go click on their name and look at their profile. One of the handy things with this system that we think people are going to like a lot better than our current one is what we call resume parsing. So when you do create an employee account or an applicant account, and you're first starting your account, you can upload your resume, and fields in your resume will automatically populate to your profile and your education and experience. So it's only going to populate from your resume what it can read and recognize as applicable fields. It works really well, but I have noticed that resumes that are really fancy with a lot of special formatting might not parse as well as very simple, basic resumes where the dates are really clear, the items are really clear. So people they'll upload their resume, and then they can just kind of go through and quickly create or correct the fields that the system didn't pick up from there. Another thing I could do is I could print these resumes if I wanted to. So or I could save them. Like if I wanted to save them to like a SharePoint site or something. Don't do that, but you could if you wanted to. So he can review those resumes. Let's just say, okay, so I see here that Mandy's a mandatory interview, so I know I've got to interview her anyway. So I'm just going to move her interview status. I'm going to start with a phone interview to make sure she understands what this job is all about and that she's really that she's that is something that she's really interested in. So I could just move her to phone interview. Did you see how I did that? All I did was I just grabbed it here and I just dragged her to the next status, and then I apply my update. And now there's only 2 people in hiring manager review and 1 person in interview. I could also, all right, so now I've done a phone interview, and maybe Mandy was like, yes, this is like my dream job, and I know that I have to work nights and weekends, and that's all cool with me. So maybe you want to send Mandy to somebody else to review her resume. You could forward to a colleague from here. Or if you want to send her, maybe you're going to schedule her for an in-person interview and you want to send her some correspondence, you can email her from here to give her directions to the site or something, any instructions you might have. You can advance people from here, and it's just going to advance them to the next step, or you could decline them from here or add a comment. So, so I'm just going to click on her name now and look at her application for this job. So right now she's in phone interview status. If I wanted to add a comment here, I could do that just by clicking here and just saying, need to schedule for in-person interview. But I just didn't have anything better. And then I would just click out of there, and I'm going to save that. So you can see how also how she answered her screening questions for this requisition. And if she didn't have a resume, you could view here her work experience. What else should I show folks? Is there anything I've forgotten to show people, or are there any questions I can answer?
I think Derek's been keeping up pretty well with all the questions. Somebody had asked, I don't know, Derek answered it. There were, exactly as I would have interpreted it, but somebody asked if when would somebody be yes for a mandatory interview, and he answered, of course, individuals with disabilities can apply and improve through DHR. I don't know if the question was maybe when does that show up, and it's when the person fills out their application based on their responses. No.
No, we have to. So people who have mandatory interview rights as a result of applying for that status, when they apply, we're just going to have to track them, and when we see that a person with mandatory interview rights has applied to a position, we will note that status on their application, and then it will be visible to you here.
Okay, so we have to manually go in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me just show you two of these pipelines again, so that we have the hiring manager review, we have the interview. I think I showed you there's 3 options here. I forgot to show you on the hiring manager review that we have. Why can't I do this? What am I doing wrong here?
Yeah, click somebody.
I just want to, sorry. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Problem. It's because I'm on my laptop and I'm not using a mouse. So with the hiring manager review, we created a couple of sub statuses that you could use to kind of sort candidates while you're working through the process. We just chose well qualified and highly qualified. So when they come into hiring manager review, they're yours to look at and take action on. Say you had 80 applicants and you wanted to just manage them, and maybe there's like 10 of them that you wanted to get other people to look at and see if they agree with you before you move them to the interview step. You could make those highly qualified, and then anybody else that you're still considering and not ready to reject, you could make well qualified. It just allows you to sort them a little bit. The other thing that you would do if you just weren't interested in somebody, if they didn't have what you were looking for, you didn't think they actually were qualified, whatever the reason would be, you could bring them over to not selected and just choose the reason why they weren't selected, and then apply those updates. So what we really recommend is that people keep their applicant statuses up to date. So if you have candidates on your list that you're never going to interview, they're just not people that you think have the requirements that you're looking for, you would just go ahead and move them into the not selected status, and then whichever status you select, it will determine what kind of an automatic notification they get. Not all of these statuses have automatic disqualification notifications, but not selected for interview does. There's some of them might be like you're not going to send them correspondence because it's not appropriate. So like they didn't show for the interview, you're probably not going to send them correspondence. So we don't have a template with that, but you could always send them a custom email if you wanted to using the system. But if you chose, not selected for interview, then we have a template notification that they will get when you put them into that status. So you can just kind of keep your list clean by moving people into the correct status as soon as you've made your decision, and then you can sort them. I'm sorry, again, this is my laptop, not the thing. You can sort her into a substatus, but you can sort them by those substatuses. So let me do this again. And I'll help you see how kind of easy that drag and drop is. Now you can see I've got Bonnie in well qualified and Max in hiring manager review. And if I just wanted to look at all the ones that were in well qualified, then I could just click on that status. And it's showing me that I've got two different statuses going here. Pre-interview is a prerequisite to move anybody to a subsequent stage of the pipeline. And pre-offer is a prerequisite to move anybody to a subsequent step, and so is offer. So these ones with the asterisk, red asterisk, are required steps to move to the next step. The business process here is going to be that currently when you get to the when you're really interested in somebody, when they're a finalist for the position, you have to do your due diligence and you have to check to make sure that they are in compliance with the Vermont Tax Department, and we have to do the criminal history declaration and review their criminal history to see if there's going to be any conflict with the position. Currently, we do that with paper forms. When we implement this system, we've built those into the application process. So when you drop somebody into pre-offer, when you've decided that you're going to move ahead with them, you would put them into the pre-offer status. They're going to get a notification that says, getting serious, and ask them to go back in and update their application. And they're going to update their application to answer the criminal history declaration questions and to answer the tax compliance question, and also provide us with their social security number and date of birth. So that gets us ready to then move to the next steps. We don't have to do that with paper anymore with this system. We'll do it right in here. So the candidate will get that notification. They'll go in, they'll update their application, and then after field HR has reviewed their tax compliance and criminal history, they'll move the person into this ready to hire status to let you know that you can go ahead and make the conditional verbal offer. When you've done that and they've accepted the conditional verbal offer, then you would drop them into the offer status, and field HR would take it from there in order to submit a written offer. Want me to go ahead?
Just to reiterate a little bit of the kind of the exciting features that Gail has shown, the things that we're really looking forward to pushing out to all of you is just this, how intuitive and visual it is from the pipeline to being able to drag and drop very simply, to being especially the resume viewer, where you can basically page through all the resumes that you have, instead of currently where you've got to click 2 to 3 times simply to open a resume. Here you can very easily click all or some and view the resumes and take action directly from there. Is a feature that we're really excited about.
Are there any other questions? If there are not, I think we have a few minutes. I can show the candidate experience.
Is there anything, Derek, that you need? Okay. Derek's working feverishly on.
Okay.
Caught up.
Okay. Would you guys, well, let's have a little show of hands. Do you want me to show you the candidate experience? You just raise your hand. Allison does. Okay, cool. Some of you want to see it, so I think you guys will be interested in this. So let me show you that. So I'm going to show you 2 ways. The first I'm going to show you is the internal. So the internal and the external views are very different. I don't know why, they just are. So I'm still proxied as Robert Faley, so this is the view that he would have as a candidate. So he can just click on this careers tile. And so this is what the career site for internal applicants. And so just search on jobs here, or you could enter keywords, or if you knew what you were looking for. You could still, if you wanted to narrow it down and say, oh, I was interested in that berry position. Well, this is zip codes, but I'll get that fixed. So you can filter here to go right to what you're looking for, or you can scroll and view. And then you would create your application from here. What I really want to show you is the external. I'm not going to go all the way through creating an account, but I can show you a little bit about that. This is our external career site. I think it's 99% of how it's going to look when we go live. So we've got, lots of ways that candidates can research and get some information. We've got lots of different ways for them to search for jobs. We have featured jobs. So a lot of jobs you can put into these categories. And then people can opt into our talent community. And there's several different ways they can do that. They can search by a keyword here or by location. They can also search by department, or they can just search for all jobs. They get a list here of all the jobs that we have posted. They could filter by one of these values if they wanted to. I'm going to go back to that home page. This is the Waterbury State Office Complex. So we've created a lot of new images. We did some photography work recently to get a lot of nice images that look pretty good. This again is the featured jobs. More on kind of like working for the state or how to apply. Lots of different resources. This is where we have our videos about certain featured jobs. More about working for the state. Our job map is a very popular feature on our DHR website, so we've moved it here. We think people really like that. If I wanted to create a new account,
do you want to actually click on one of the featured jobs?
Too late. I clicked on the external. Just a second. I gotta wait for it to finish spinning. I wouldn't do it from here. It shows you, what did you want to show? Just
well, what's nice about this is the people who know the areas in which they might be interested in IT or what have you. All they need to do is click on those featured jobs, and it automatically does a search to pull up all jobs that are in that category. So they don't have to do anything other than click on that, and it will pull up everything within the category.
So as an external, it's very easy to create a profile just to kind of opt in to our thing. All I need is my email address, and people should use the email address where they are going to get email. Email address, put in a password, my first name, the last name, and my country. That's a SuccessFactors required field. We are automatically opting them in to get notifications, but they can opt out and then accept our statement and create their account. And then they would, like I said, hopefully upload their resume. It's going to be our best practice for sure. So I already have an account in here as an external, so I'm going to, this is my dog, not me. We want employees to use their employee account, not create an external account. Okay, so you can see that we have a profile welcome here for candidates, and they can, we have some instructions for them about uploading their resume and how to complete the process. This is where they would have any attachments that they've added in their resume and their cover letter, their profile. So they can make changes here if they need to. One of the things that we're changing is we're now asking them, so we have some questions that we ask on every application. Are you old enough? Are you legally authorized to work in the United States? Do you have any family household members who work for the state already? Have you ever worked here under a different name? And have you ever agreed not to work here? So those questions are now on the application, so those only have to be asked once. You can see here the history of the jobs that this external candidate has applied for and the status. Like this one, they were automatically disqualified because they failed one of the basic screening questions that we asked. This one they withdrew. This one we're still reviewing it. You can see their employment history as it parsed from the resume, and maybe a couple fields had to be corrected here. And educate an external applicant.
So just a couple points on this is there's no, in our current external application, there's navigation that trips up a lot of our candidates, a lot of our applicants. This is a single page. There's not any navigation to try to, to go to the next page or figure out what to do. So each of these sections are things that they need to fill in. And as Gail said, much of it is filled in once they attach a resume, which is parsed. They can also attach a cover letter, and the information about the jobs that they've applied for is robust in terms of letting them know where they stand. That's one of the biggest things that we get is, what's happened. So they're able to see their status, many different statuses, as they go through the process. So this also, as Bill said earlier, is mobile friendly. And the candidate experience is a lot better also. We expect that it will be.
We know it will be. Okay. So I think that was all that I intended to show folks. Are there any questions I can answer or anything else I can show?
Just want to make sure all the questions are. You getting that last one, Derek?
I don't know, Derek.
File types one I answered. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the middle.
Okay, so if we don't have it, I'll just pause here for a few minutes and let folks see if anybody, if you have a question, you can go ahead and submit it. Does the system not let the applicant move forward? So there's a question here about, does the system not let people move forward unless they answer all the questions?
Yeah.
Well, just the whole, I'd like to address the rest of that question, but as an external applicant, when you, if you fail to answer something, you're going to get a big red warning, and it'll show you exactly what you didn't complete. So it's much more robust in that way. Go to implementation. A memo should be going out to department heads fairly soon with the details. And as Bill said, we'll be offering more. This is meant to be kind of a change management presentation, just to give people an idea of what's happening. We'll be doing training both in the classroom for our heavy users and online for everyone else.
Okay. So,
Don't answer Harry's.
I not see it.
It's the fourth one down right now. They don't really seem to come in order. There's a couple people asking when we are planning to make it go live.
Oh, yeah, Gail just answered that.
Oh,
So,
sorry,
yeah.
I wasn't listening. I was not
Yeah,
listening.
Gail just answered. So we'll have a definitive date. We'll be announcing that shortly. But just to kind of go talking about the training plan, so this will kind of dovetail with that. So hiring manager training we're going to do, and just to kind of be specific about it, it's going to be a global level. So it's going to be system specific training that we're going to present to the hiring managers on how to use the system and how to interact with it and whatnot. So we're not going to do training at a department or agency level because, if you have certain specific business processes around your recruiting, we're not going to touch on those. We're going to have people from all agencies and departments in training sessions. So we're going to give more of a global perspective of that. And just so you know, whether it's the in-person or online training. So the dates that we have for online training right now are September 17th, 27th, and October 1st. The information will be sent out probably tomorrow or Friday on registration, so you will be able to go in and register for one of those dates, and we should have plenty of capacity for everybody to get trained at that time. And then, like I said, there will be, and then the classroom ones, we have sent out some reach out to people for doing the in-person classroom training. If you feel like you need it and you haven't been part of that, please do reach out to us if you feel like you need the classroom training, or go to the LMS, I think. Is that what they would do, is go to the LMS and request?
If the classroom training, we sent invitations out to people that are the heavy users. If people want to be included in that, they should just send me an email so I can. It's an invitation only right now, so it's not visible to everybody.
Right.
But we can add you to the list.
We will be providing detailed user guides that'll be accessible through the system for hiring managers. So there will be companion guides that you'll be able to use after training when we go live that will step you through every part of the process and should be able to answer any questions that you have. And then again, for support, we're gonna provide support as necessary for go live. So your TA specialist, Eric, Denise, they'll work with you to transition any requisitions and help you through kind of navigating during the cutover period to SuccessFactors. That's it. So
If you want to hand the screen back to me, there's a good question about what can they see the correspondence that applicants get. So I'd be happy to show that.
Okay. I'll see.
Okay. I got to close some things. Sorry. So this is the navigation I want to show you before. So I'm on Robert's requisition list page, and I can just click on the number of candidates here. So the question was, can we see the correspondence that people got when they were not selected? So people that, well, let me just move. People that were automatically disqualified, you're not going to see. People that we reject or that you reject, you will see. Let's just come here to the not selected one, and I'm going to look at this candidate. And you can see down here the correspondence that the candidate received. So there was one on the person's application status, which says, I didn't select you. And there was the first one they got that said, thank you for applying. So any correspondence that they got on this application, you will see here. There will be a history of the comments that you will have here. And then there's the audit trail of the changes to their status as they went through. Another question was about whether this is, when we hire people through here, if it's going to automatically go into HRIS. We're going to have a data feed that will send applicant or candidate information to HRIS. That is not going to totally eliminate the need for PARs, but the intent is that this system HR will enter the data that's needed to move them to hire and then send them over to HRIS in a data feed.
And that will be for hires and rehires, not internal transfers. So PARs will still be necessary there. But for again, external hires, we intend to be able to use that data feed to move them directly into VTHR.
I think there was one more question that was, I don't know if you answered this because I was working on other questions, but around end user testing. If we're going to have end user testing, I know the answer is yes, but as far as timing.
We have invited a list of hiring managers for end user testing. And if you want to be on that list, just email me if you didn't get an invite already.
Excellent. Thank you, Gail.
Your email.
Oh, my email? You want my email address too?
Well, I think that's the last screen, maybe.
Well,
Did I just end the session?
No.
Oh,
I hope you didn't.
Sorry.
So we did the poll. So we want to, we want to encourage people to follow up if they have more questions. You can contact your talent acquisition specialist for a one-on-one discussion if you like. If you want to get a little bit more in depth, if there's specific questions that you had that didn't get answered or you think of it after this is done. And there's a little bit.ly link there I created. So you can go onto our talent acquisition section of our current DHR site and find out who your talent acquisition specialist is if you do not know. So that will list by your department who that is. And then, if you do have any questions, you can either contact Gail or Derek or myself. We're happy to answer what we can. You can just send an email to the general DHR recruitment mailbox, and it will get forwarded to the appropriate person. So, we are available, and we do want to make sure you have all your questions answered as much as we can up until the time we launch. We know there'll be more when we go live, but I think we'll be ready for that, and we're going to provide a lot of training opportunities so people will be comfortable day one. So it looks like Derek has been unbelievably good at keeping up with all the questions that are being fired out. So I think we're up to date. I don't think there's anything else outstanding as far as questions are, but please do reach out to us offline if you have any more questions. So thanks again for everybody for joining today, and we appreciate it. And again, this will be recorded, and we'll be sending the recording out too if you wanted to review anything. So thanks again. Have a great day.